you very much for joining us today. My name is Gemma and I'm the Director of the Statistics Division here at ESCAP, and it's a real pleasure to be joining you today for this cafe. We're in about our 35th cafe since we started this 12 months ago. And today we've brought together 4 really great speakers, and a really important topic for us in the United Nations and globally on measuring SDG progress, measuring progress with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, but at the national level. So for those of you who haven't joined one of these Stats Cafes before, we're in a platform called MS Teams. We'll be inviting each of our speakers to speak for share with us some presentations, share with them their national experience. In the chat box or along the top in MS Teams, you'll see the second icon along the top on the right-hand side. There's a little chat bubble where if you've got any questions, please do ask those questions, and we'll come to those in question and answer. And we will have time as part of this cafe to invite you to participate in question and answer. We'll also be recording this, and it'll be on our website. So if you want to come back and look at the recording or access any of the presentations, they'll also be available on the ESCAP website, which we'll share with you afterwards. We do encourage you to have your microphone on mute, just so that we can hear the speakers and less of the background noise. And we have our technical staff which will turn you on mute if for some reason it accidentally goes on. And if you do have any connection problems, we just find turning your video off can help with internet connections, depending on where you are. That is something to worth, and that video function is the 5th one along, going from left to right. This topic that we have today is about SDG progress, as I said, and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development started 6 years ago now, 2015, and we've got basically 9 years left until 2030. And we've seen many countries report on progress with data availability. We've seen countries report on which of the global SDG indicators are relevant to their national circumstances. We've heard countries share with us their SDG reporting platforms, how they've made use of technologies like SDMX. But today we're actually bringing you quite a different topic, is hearing from countries about how they've answered a fairly simple question, which is, are you on track to meet the ambitions of the 2030 Agenda? But as you'll see from these presentations today, that question of are you on track at the national level to achieve the goals is quite a difficult question to answer, given the complexity of the indicators and the complexity of the data that we're dealing with. So I'm really happy to bring these 4 presentations together with you today to share this simple concept of whether you're on track to meet the 2030 Agenda, and to hear how 4 countries have addressed this question at their national level. So without further ado, Diane, will we hand over first over to Wilma, the Deputy National Statistician there in the Philippines, to share with us your experience. Thank you very much, Wilma. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gemma. Thank you, Diane, for all the coordination that you have done, and to all my co-panelists and to all who are in attendance to this Stats Café forum. A pleasant day to each and every one of us. So before I proceed, of course, let me express our sincere gratitude to you and ESCAP for this opportunity to share the Philippines' experience in gaining support in the monitoring of the country's progress on the SDGs, the steps that we have taken. And I'm sorry, I'm sharing my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes,
hello?
We can see.
Yes, okay. So yeah, I'm really glad, my office is really glad that we can have this golden opportunity, if I may say, to share the Philippines' experience in gaining support in the monitoring of the country's progress on the SDGs, the steps taken in producing the progress assessment, the challenges and impacts of tracking progress. So this presentation is entitled Tracking the Progress of the Philippine Sustainable Development Goals. And it will follow this outline. I will start with the sharing of the building blocks of gaining the support of the Philippine SDG monitoring, and this will be followed by the 2021 SDG pace of progress. Then I will share the challenges and the impacts of tracking the progress on the SDGs. And to cap this presentation, I will share the next steps in our efforts to monitor the Sustainable Development Goals. So very important are the three building blocks to gaining commitment and massive support to the Sustainable Development Goals monitoring in the Philippines. And these building blocks are effective collaboration. Second is the enactment of statistical policies. And third is monitoring and review. Now, a key to an effective collaboration is early engagement, and I would like to emphasize on that. Consultation of stakeholders from various groups having in mind to leave no one behind, the creation of ownership and accountability among stakeholders, and also collaboration at the subnational level is also as important as the collaboration at the country level, and collaboration is also indispensable in the setting of the indicator target values for 2030. So secondly, the enactment of statistical policies is extremely important, and these policies include enjoining all concerned stakeholders to support or to provide the data support, the designation of the official repository and overall monitor of the SDG indicators, data and updates, the establishment of SDG team within the NSO, and the SDG focal points in different ministries, the policy on data flow and reporting mechanism to properly guide the concerned entities or stakeholders, and then the approval of the initial list of SDG indicators for monitoring at the national and subnational level, and of course, the methodology of measuring progress in the Sustainable Development Goals. So thirdly, monitoring and review is essential to assess and evaluate what works and what not. And a major step done was the creation of the PSA SDG webpage and the Philippine SDG Watch and Database as monitoring tools for the annual updates and database, annual updates of data and database of the Philippine SDG indicators. And capacity building is crucial for the methodology to track progress. Now, for the 2021 pace of progress in the country, this was made possible by the adoption of the two measures developed by UN ESCAP, the Current Status Index and the Anticipated Progress Index. And the third one is the time distance measure that was developed by Dr. Pavle Schuschel. And in connection to this, I would like to really extend gratitude particularly to Arman, who did the online capacity building for the PSA technical staff for us to be equipped in using this progress methodologies. So the next thing after the capacity building was to conduct the assessment of the 155 Philippine SDG indicators to determine which of these would meet the data requirements for each of the three measures. And in this slide, you would see the data requirement for the current status index, which is actually providing us a goal level measure of progress. And we have considered 41 out of the 155 main indicators that we have initially committed to monitor in the Philippines. For the anticipated progress index, this would require a baseline data, a target data, and 3 or more data points. And this can provide us measure of progress at the target level, although we can also do this at the indicator level. And we were able to consider 36 out of the 155 main indicators that we have initially committed. And for the time distance measure, of course, we also have the baseline, the target, and the updated data. And there are 31 main indicators that were considered here. Now, for the results of the progress assessment, based on the current status index, the Philippines has made progress since 2000 on 7 of the 15 goals. So you would see the blue bar graphs here, but you would see 3 blue bar graphs that are that have checkered shading, and these ones plus the red ones below the 2000 line, these are with the bar, with the checkered bar graphs also. This means that the indicators are insufficient. We have insufficient data for the monitoring of these goals. And you would see here that only goal 14, it was only on goal 14 that we achieved much progress, but there is only, this is the only indicator that is that we have much progress. Now, the country has showed regression since 2000 for goal 2 on zero hunger and goal 5 on gender equality. Okay, based on the anticipated progress index, the Philippines needs to accelerate its efforts for about 65% of the 34 targets across the 12 goals that pass the criteria for us to be able to use the anticipated progress index. And the Philippines is on track for nearly 12% of the targets, including target 1.1, target 3.8, target 5.5, and target 8.1. And there was a regression in 8 or nearly 24% of the targets. And these are the ones that are shaded red actually in the bar graphs. Now, the last but not the least of the three measures that we used, we have, based on the time distance measure, the country posted time lead for nearly 42% or 13 indicators of the 31 indicators that were assessed. And the time lead ranges from 0.24 years, that is indicator 2.2.1 on stunting, to 69.86 years, that is indicator 1.1.1 on international, based on the international poverty line. So you would see here the green shaded bar graphs at the left-hand side of the screen. On the other hand, the country has time lag for more than 50% of the indicators, and the time lag ranges from 0.04 years for 10 to 1 or population living below 50% of median income to 173.97 years for indicator 852 or unemployment rate. So these are just the details. As we know, the Sustainable Development Goals is for the people, the planet, for peace and prosperity. Now, we have here, for example, although it has been shown already in the bar graph, so I will just have to skip this one, but should anyone be interested to look at the details later on, they can just go back to the slides. Although this is the more updated slide compared to the one that I have sent to Diane. Okay. So I will just skip these slides. Now, moving on to the challenges that we have encountered so far. Yes, by far the challenges encountered fall into the following categories: on sufficiency of data. The second one is asynchronous reference periods of data inputs. The third one is insufficiency of indicators. Like, for example, for goal 14, we only have one indicator measuring that specific goal 14. And then the last one is the inclusion of vulnerable groups. So under sufficiency of data, actually, not all indicators have 2030 nationally determined numerical targets. And there's a lack of data points with respect to the data requirement of the methodology. So you can just go back to all of this later on. I'm conscious of the time that was given to me. Now, as to the impacts of tracking the Philippine SDGs, the SDG monitoring has tremendously impacted to the country's development framework. The integration of the Sustainable Development Goals in the Philippine Development Plan and the long-term vision of the Filipinos facilitate a more efficient monitoring and makes the national plan an inclusive plan. Also, we have data from the SDG Watch serves as input in the voluntary national report of the country. For the 2 times that we have reported already, they have always used the data from the Philippine Statistics Authority. And also, the SDG progress monitoring facilitates integrating activities with private sector initiatives And it also inform evidence-based legislation, policy and program formulation, and guide organizations responsible in achieving the 2030 target. For the next activities, we are going to review the Philippine Sustainable Development Goal indicators, which are 155 for now, so that we can include any developments within the Philippine statistical community and also developments at the global level. If there has been Tier 2 before that has been elevated into Tier 1, or if there are Tier 1 now, which we have already seen in our monitoring that actually do not have data. So we will have to delete them in our initial list of 155 indicators. Of course, we will continue to disseminate, and we have the pace of progress already uploaded in the SDG webpage. You can already see it there. As to the efforts in addressing the data gaps, we are currently developing a methodology for estimating multidimensional poverty index. And we are also improving local monitoring and addressing of disaggregated data through the community-based monitoring system. There has been already a law enacted for the national conduct of the community-based monitoring system. And of course, we are developing a methodology for estimating unpaid work. And this is actually a project with the United Nations Women, or UN Women. I think this is all from my end. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Wilma. That's an excellent presentation, and I really liked what you had done. What Philippines have done here is taken a methodology that's been developed, and we use here for regional and sub-regional reporting, but you've applied it for your national indicator set of 151 prioritised indicators. You've added some of your own methodology, which is the time distance, and then you've presented this for your own, with your own data, with your own targets, and with your own indicators. So really great example of summarising the whole 2030 agenda down to something that's relevant and localised there for the Philippines. So thank you so much, Wilma. I really appreciate. We're now going to turn to a very different part of our region, and we're going to zoom all the way over to Ukraine and the State Statistical Service of Ukraine. And we have with us today Elena Shevtsova, who's the Deputy Director of Administrative Directorate with the Head of Organisational Support Development. And the State Statistical Service of Ukraine have also applied this progress methodology, and we're really very excited to have you with us here today. So Elena, over to you. Thank you.
Good morning, dear colleagues. Good day and good afternoon to everybody. Thank you very much, Ms. Valhanderen, for introducing me. And to start with, it is indeed my great pleasure and honor to be with you today. And thank you so much for inviting me to take the floor at the Asia Pacific Stats Café and to share our experience, as well as to express our sincerest gratitude for all support provided by the Statistics Division of the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific under the leadership of Ms. Valhanderen in this very endeavor that took place in 2020. And also for all support and consultancy provided by Diane and Armand. Thank you so much for your helping hand and for our cooperation. Well, undeniably, it is very important and vital to choose the sound methodology to ensure the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, and to see how actually the countries at the national level also succeeded in its implementation. But for choosing sound methodologies, we ourselves also contribute to SDG number 17, and it goes about global partnership. And actually our cooperation with the United Nations ESCAP Statistics Division proved how the global partnership initiatives actually successfully work and are implemented. So I would like to share with you our experience of measuring national SDG progress in Ukraine. To start with, I would like to share some background SDG information. In Ukraine in 2017, the targets of the Sustainable Development Goals were nationalized. That was reflected in the Ukraine National Baseline Report. So we have 86 targets and 183 indicators. The most important documents are the presidential decree dated 30 September of 2019 on Sustainable Development Goals of Ukraine for the period till 2030. This document foresees that the Sustainable Development Goals shall permeate program documents, draft legal text to ensure balanced economic, social, and ecology domains of Ukraine's sustainable development. Also, we have the regulation of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine dated the 21st of August 2019 on the issue concerning data collection to monitor the SDGs implementation. This document approves the nationalized list of SDG indicators and empowers the State Statistics Service of Ukraine with ensuring collection and making these data public before the 1st of March, as well as with coordinating activities to develop metadata under the indicators. So thus, the State Statistics Service of Ukraine is the coordinator of data collection for monitoring the SDGs implementation. Recently, the monitoring report Sustainable Development Goals Ukraine 2020 has been prepared by Statistics Ukraine with the support of the United Nations in Ukraine and UNICEF Ukraine, highlighting available information for the period of 2015-2019 according to the relevant regulation of the Ukraine's government, and those having target values for 2020. You may see the link to the document, and I must admit that this monitoring report is important as it provides detailed information per indicators, and it is of paramount importance for think tanks, for analysts, for citizens who need very detailed information on certain indicators. In 2020, the State Statistics Service of Ukraine, jointly with Vox Ukraine, supported by UNDP Ukraine, made a pilot of measuring the SDGs progress in Ukraine using UN ESCAP methodology and on the basis of the SDGs voluntary national review. Having studied major existing methodologies, we chose the one developed by UNESCAP, as it shows the progress the country has made towards targets since the chosen year as a total share of progress it needs to make. Apart from that, it calculates the expected distance from targets in 2030, judging from a country's past progress. So this methodology works for the nationalized SDG agenda, and the starting year may be also different. So as you may see from this slide, in case with Ukraine, the starting year is 2015. So the progress was measured.
Excuse me, Alina. Sorry, it's Gemma here. Is it possible for you to put your slides in slideshow mode so that they're a bit larger? If down the bottom of the screen, yeah. Oh, this is wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
In case with Ukraine, the progress was measured for 110 out of 183 national indicators approved by the regulation of the Cabinet of Ministers, those having the target values for 2030. So two principal measures were used to assess Ukraine's progress towards the SDGs, current status index and anticipated progress index, as the UNESCAP methodologies foresees. The indices answer two different questions: how much progress has been made since 2015, and how likely will the targets be achieved by 2030. Anticipated Progress Index in Ukraine is a unique tool to show where the acceleration is needed to reach the target, marked with yellow, maintaining the pace green, and reverse trend, marked with red, is needed to achieve the target, as well as what targets cannot be measured, as gray color means missing data. So the next slide shows the expected gap in Ukraine, And as you may see from this slide, there are actually many indicators that are on track, marking with green color. Actually, the bar chart shows the magnitude of the gap between the predicted and the target values of indicators that are not expected to hit the target by 2030. Red bars refer to indicators for which the trend needs to be reversed, and yellow bars to indicators for which progress needs to be accelerated. It is my great pleasure to share with you information that recently I've presented also this our national progress measurement based on UNESCAP methodology during UNEC 5th expert meeting for SDGs. And also Ukraine's case study on communication of national SDG indicators is included to Stats Wiki UNEC.org. Also, you may find the SDG progress measurement in Ukraine based on UNESCAP's methodology on Statistics Ukraine's official webpage, www.ukrstat.gov.ua. We have the English page and the section devoted to SDGs has the subsection assessment of the SDGs achievement progress in Ukraine by the UNESCAP methodology. And you may also see the hyperlink where the visualization of SDG progress assessment is available. What is more exciting piece of information I would like to share with you is new initiatives, because we were that impressed by the UNESCAP methodology and actually what we done last year, that we decided to move forward. And I'm happy to share with you that recently Statistics Ukraine jointly with WHO and NGO Works Ukraine organized a series of webinars dedicated to health-related sustainable development goals and to the progress measurement. And we were very happy that UNESCAP Statistics Division also participated and took the floor during this very important initiative. And we initiated a pilot project of measuring Ukraine's SDG progress at global and national level, based on case study of Goal 3, Good Health and Well-being, using UNESCAP's methodology. And here you may also see the link to the website where the analytical article will be placed. It also will be available in English. And the results show that it might be useful for Ukraine to introduce some global SDG indicators relevant for our country. And these basic methodologies that helped to show that it might be useful for Ukraine was also the one of UNESCAP. Another important initiative is that the State Statistics Service of Ukraine, in partnership with UNDP and Vox Ukraine, decided to move forward and use UNESCAP's methodology to measure SDG progress in Ukraine at subnational level. The pilot project is in progress and the results are about to come soon. It is also a very important initiative because the sustainable development is very important to be tracked at subnational level, to see how different regions of the country succeed and where some additional efforts should be paid in order to accelerate the pace of sustainable development in the country. Thank you very much for your attention. Looking forward to answering the questions, if any. And once again, thank you so much for all your support and cooperation.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Elena. And thank you for sharing Ukraine's experience there. Again, I'd just like to highlight what we've seen there is Ukraine have taken their national set of SDG indicators, which in your case was 183 of the 231. You've then found data for 110 of them and been able to measure progress across those 17 goals, and then also extend that work to do a bit more of a deep dive, if you like, around Goal 3 and where you might want to improve your indicator set, particularly for Goal 3. So really great application, again, of the global framework, the global SDG indicators, but localised to your national circumstance, and also in your own native language, as well as translating it into English. So thank you so much. So many important lessons there that we can share with the global community, as you suggest, under Partnership for the Goals. Thank you so much, Helena. We don't have any questions yet, but certainly what we will proceed to the next two speakers, but and then we will have time for questions and answers. And if anybody does have any questions, please do put them in the chat, and we have time for those. So I'd now like to move to a third country. We're going to zoom back to the Asia Pacific region, to our colleague, Dr. Auja, from the National Statistics Office under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation of the Government of India. And Dr. Auja is Senior Officer in the Social Statistics Division of the National Stats Office of India. He's been working with, similar to Alina and Wilma, on national SDG localization. He's actually a very active member of our data integration community of practice, and India is actually a very active member of the, very active in the global SDG indicators group as well. I'm very pleased to also see that Dr. Auja is passionate about cricket, and it's extremely unfortunate due to COVID-19 that the recent cricket series there in India had to be postponed. But let me hand over to you, Dr. Auja, and share your experience with SDG National Progress reporting in India. Dr. Auja, thank you. Have we lost Dr. Auja? No. Dayan, can you see Dr. Auja there?
Yes, he seems to be connected. But maybe he's having some technical issues.
Technical issues, okay. Let me just give him another minute, Dr. Auja. If not, maybe are we able to hand over to you, in the interest of keeping moving, Tamana, are we able to ask you to come in here and share the experience with Thailand? Tamana, let's move to you, and we'll come back to Dr. Auja. Tamana, oh, let me introduce, sorry everybody, this is Tamana. He's from the Resident Coordinator's Office in UN Thailand, and he's going to share. I'm actually really pleased that we have Tamana with us today, because this National SDG Progress reporting is not only important for you as governments, but it's also important for the UN system and our series of Resident Coordinator Officers who are there to support your governments with the 2030 Agenda. So here we have Tamana, who's in our Resident Coordinator Office, UN Resident Coordinator Office here in Thailand, and share his experience in monitoring the progress in Thailand. Over to you, Dr. Tamana.
Thank you very much, Emma. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, everyone. I'm very pleased to be invited to share Thailand experience with you today. And I would like to first of all start off with thanking ESCAP Statistic Division and Gemma, Aman, Dayang specifically for the general support to the operation of the UN Thailand office. And the result that I'm going to report today is also a report of the joint achievement of Stat Division and the UN Thailand. And for this, I'm really appreciate. And I would like to start off by addressing the three basic issue. Why we're doing this SDG progress assessment and how we did it and what result and lesson we learned from this exercise. So we already know that this SDG Progress Assessment is a complex issue because it has 17 goals, 169 targets, and 247 indicators. When I first joined RC just before the beginning of 2020, my first assignment as a data and result reporting officer was to address the SDG progress towards achieving the agenda by 2030. And the reason is that during that time, the ESG is planning to visit Thailand. So we want to have this report to inform UNCT and report to the ESG. But unfortunately, COVID hit in April in March, and the DSG trip was cancelled. But the SDG Progress Assessment continued even afterward. The UNCT need to have this assessment to dialogue with the government official in order to support the country to advance the SDG. We also need to regularly update our common country assessment on the SDG progress. So we need to have some kind of tool that can answer our three questions. First is how much progress the country has made so far, and will the target be achieved by 2030 if the current trends continue, and which goals to strategically prioritize support and efforts. And to do this, I Google to find out what are the tools that are available, and fortunately I found ESCAP article written by Arman, and from there the collaboration started with ESCAP. When I reviewed the past document, we found that the past assessment, SDG Progress Assessment, was based on desk review of various reports, including the VNR report and report from the Sustainable Development Solution Network. Key challenge of using this document is that some of these documents are based on inconsistent methodology, and some of the assessment were based on input or process-based assessment and using some unofficial data. So reliability is a question. And so from there, we move to evidence-based, result-based, and forward-looking progress assessment with the support of by using the ESCAP methodology with the support of ESCAP. We leverage technical expert from regional office. Fortunately, the UN Thailand is based in the same location with many regional office. So we have many. We are very rich with a pool of talented people at our UN Thailand. The key methodology you already know that we use this simple measurement of distance to target for each SDG and make projection based on the current trends. And the data is based on national and global SDG database, and with the national targets when available, and if not available, that we use regional targets. And once we have the result, we verify the result with UN agency, and when UN agency provide feedback, we revise it, and then we share with the government agency to further verify the result. Basically, in Thailand, we are verified with the national planning agencies, and which is in charge of agency in charge of the SDG progress monitoring. So here is the initial result that we have received. It is based on 45% of the indicator. And when we click each progress bar, we'll see the breakdown and the projection of which indicators contribute to the overall achievement of each goal. And I will skip this since we have seen this before. So, and this is we also have seen from the previous presentation. So next, once we receive the result, we move to the verification process by sending it off to the agencies. And we receive many feedback. Overall, the overall feedback from the agency is that the results are pretty much consistent with their assessment, but there are some differences, and the main differences that we have was due to the agency having more updated data. And so our strategy during that time is to address the data gap first, and we request each agency to provide any data that we missing from the ESCAP database and rerun the analysis. And we also request each agency to develop a plan to work with the government agencies to address data gap. And an interesting assessment, an interesting feedback that we received from the UNEP is the similar report, similar progress assessment of the environmental dimension of each goal for Thailand, and the results is shown here, but I would skip. But the point is that this assessment provides a deeper insight into the situation. It's very interesting also to read. So, what the result of this verification process? The first one is that it helped to increase the data availability. Initially, we have 45% of the data of the indicator, and we move from 45 to 51. The picture are slightly different, and it's more better aligned with the agency assessment, especially the zero hunger. Initially, it was all blue, but now it shows some regressing sign because of the decrease in investment in agricultural sector and the increase in overnutrition in Thailand. And there's some slight increase in malnutrition in children as well. So the picture are better and more in line with the agency's assessment. We also use this to provide information on leaving no one behind analysis when we have the data with disaggregated data, either by rural, urban, female, male, and young and old female. This helps to shed better light on the situation. The second result is that because of this cooperation, it has helped to inspire ESCAP to develop National SDG Tracker. And this is a very important development because this is a very handy tool in allowing UN agency in each country and also national government agency in using this tool to doing their own assessment. It also provides a platform for us to better manage the data. I personally really like this development. And with this, when we learned about this result, we went to another agency of ESCAP, the macroeconomic division, and request them to help support us in providing an estimate of how much resources would be needed to address these progress gap. And the initial estimate that we received is that Thailand need about 10% of the GDP to invest or directly redirect the current investment to the SDG by about 10% of the GDP, amount to about 40 billion per year, which is about 50 or $1.6 per person per day for the next 10 years. And with this, UN Thailand has worked with the private sector, the Global Compact Network of Thailand, to secure commitment in investing in SDG Progress. And so far, the GCNT has pledged to invest 46 billion in more than 1,000 projects relating to SDG.
Tamina, can you be very quick, please? We're
Yes,
running about 4 minutes over, I think.
Yeah, this is the last one. So the lessons that we learned from this is that the investing in timely and high quality data is very critical in tracking and reaching the SDG. This is very clear. Other people also said this. And the key success here is the coordination with other agencies, leverage technical experts from other UN agencies, and foster ownership with government agency. Because we are doing SDG progress assessment not for academic purpose, but for moving the SDG implementation forward. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tamara. Thank you for sharing the experience there of you in Thailand office. We have our speaker from India back on. Sorry, we had a technical issue with you. Dr. Auja, are you able to unmute now and join us and share with us the experience of India? Let me just see if we've got Dr. Auja. Dr. Auja, we can't hear you still. Let me, in the interest of time, let me move across to my colleague Dayan from the ESCAP, who's going to share with us now. Some of the questions in the chat was how did the partnership between ESCAP and Statistics Ukraine, Statistics Philippines, Statistics Authority and India come about, and we're very happy to share with you here just how we can help you and how you can connect to us. So Dayan, while we're still trying to get Dr. Auja back on, let's move to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gemma. Let me share my screen just a moment. Hello, do you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes,
perfect.
we
Thank
can
you.
see it.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about measuring the SDGs from our ESCAP experience. And it's been already mentioned by the other participants of the way we work together at the national level. And I'll give you an overview of what we do and how we can help other countries as well. It all started with two questions many years ago at the inception of the Agenda 2030. And the questions were, first, how much progress have we made since 2000 to see, which areas that we have strengths that we have made a lot of progress and the areas where we haven't made so much progress. And we had a second question, which was about, are we going to achieve them by 2030 if we continue in the same pace of progress? So this is basically looking to the future to know whether we are on track or not. So with these two questions in mind, ESCAP developed a methodology for assessing progress. And this methodology has a few features which I'll talk about. First is that we try to use the global SDG data that is available at the global level, which is normally provided by the countries. They go to custodian agencies and end up in a global database. And they're basically the official data of SDGs. And we also incorporate disaggregated data by sex, by age, urban, rural, whenever these are available. And the second, we use all the indicators available with data. So we don't choose or pick indicators over the others. We try to find a way to incorporate all of them into one view, into one visualization, into one analysis of the SDGs. Here, the matter of targets, we have developed a methodology for setting realistic regional targets. And finally, we have the whole methodology which explains how we calculate and how we end up with the results. And it's available in our data.unescap.org. There's a very nice video we recently made that also explains the methodology in detail, but it's just a 5-minute video in case anyone is interested to know more. And the challenge really of the methodology is basically 4 different aspects. First is what are we measuring, towards what? And here's where our target setting comes into place. So we can set a finish line, or where we want to be in 2030. And then the second question is how the future will look like. And then here, there is a way of making predictions that we develop that work for most of the SDG indicators. How do we compare the progress? There are different approaches to that. Some methodologies compare progress between countries. So basically, progress in one country is relative to the progress of the others. However, the ESCAP methodology has an approach which doesn't compare the countries, but rather compare each country or each region against their own benchmark. And that's how we construct the two indices. And finally, the matter of weights and what matters more, which indicators or which targets or which goals. And here there's an approach also for aggregating and weighting the indicators to summarize it at the indicator, at target, and at goal levels. So you've seen this before. This is the what we call the snapshot that shows the progress so far for the ESCAP region. You have seen from the other presentations that this is a very clean and very easy to communicate way to show where we stand on the SDGs. We also show the data availability, as has been mentioned as well, so that in some areas we don't have that much data. So we call them insufficient indicators and they're dashed. But overall, it gives a picture of where we stand so far on the implementation of the SDGs. And finally, we look at the future as well. So we want to see whether we keep the same pace, if we're going to achieve or not. And here you see what we call the dashboard, which has all the goals and all the targets, and show which ones are green, that if we can keep the same progress, we'll achieve, and the ones that are yellow, meaning that we need to accelerate, and the ones that are red, that need a course correction, that we need to reverse their trends. And we also see the gray targets, which are the ones we can't yet measure because of no data or perhaps no target values. So we realized at ESCAP that to do this kind of calculations and to produce this type of analysis was complicated. And even for us, it took us more than a year to develop all the scripts and all the little details to get this analysis going. And we worked with Ukraine, we worked with the Philippines that presented earlier today, and we realized that it's not a small task. It was quite difficult. And it is quite amazing that both countries implemented the methodology and went through the whole analysis. And that's when we realized that we needed to make it easier. We needed to make it simpler for countries if more countries were to adopt this methodology for SDG tracking. And so we came up with what we call the National SDG Tracker. It's an application, it's on the web. It's a website that you can access your own space. So each user has their own data in their own area that they can work. And over there, they have all the available data for their country, and they can change the data. They can add indicators, they can add disaggregations. You can edit the data also. You can add data points, for example, and you can set the parameters, for example. You can use your own national targets if you like. And after you make all these changes, you can just click a button and the calculations will be all done for you, and you'll get those beautiful graphs ready for you to see. So this simplifies the complexities of the calculations that now happen everything, in the backstage. So this National SDG Tracker was just launched a couple of months ago, and we already started to work with a few countries, and we are open for working with more countries that are interested in this tool. I will give a short demonstration for you now, if you hold on a moment. Yes, so here's how it looks like, the login screen, and I'll log into the National SDG Tracker. Oh, whoops, I'm having a problem. Just a moment. All right, so when I enter the tool, as you can see, I logged in with my email account and my password. And here I'm connected to a specific country that is called unspecified because it's not any specific country. It's just a test country. And I can see all the goal targets, and I can see the indicators as well that are available for this country. And this is based on the global data. So for example, if I look at the poverty, I can see some data here for poverty that comes from the global database. And I can see the target value here that is set to 0. And if I like, I can actually change it. If I have more data in my country and I would like to add, I can just click on edit data, and this will lead me to then add the data point. Like let's say I have another data point here, I can save it. And once I save this, I have the option to run the script again and calculate the results, which appear in the results tab. So for example, if I go to the snapshot, here I have the results for this country that have been calculated based on the data that you entered. You can compare, for example, the data you calculated at the national progress with the global. So if I click on global, this is what comes from the global database. But after all the changes you've made, you can see your national progress can be different from the global data. And finally, you can export the results as a PDF, and you can also download them and use them in your own website if you like. So this is just a very, very quick overview. And I would like to also add that we have a few videos that you can actually learn more about this. This is all. Thank you very much. Over to you, Gemma.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dayan. And I'm really quite conscious of the time. Let me just check in here with everybody. We're running quite over, and I really want to give the opportunity to Dr. Auger if we have Dr. Auger back on. Let me just check and answer very quickly. There is a couple of questions while we see if Dr. Auger is back with us. There's a couple of questions in the box there about basically can this the tracking SDGs deal with shocks such as COVID-19 and disasters and other political unrest that can happen in countries. I think I've just seen Dr. Auger there on the screen. I think we need to give Dr. Auger the benefit of sharing with us India's experience, and we'll come to those questions in the chat. Can I ask everyone if we could bear with us for another 10-15 minutes while we hear from India? Dr. Auger, over to you. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can hear you and we can see you.
Only one request that because I had logged in with other names, so probably I will request Dan to just share my presentation.
Dayan, can you share the presentation?
Yes, one moment.
Yeah, thank you. And Dr. Auger, we really are sorry for your connections there, and we're running a bit over time. So if we can.
Yes. I will try to present myself very briefly.
Thank you very much. Over to you. The slides are up now.
Thank you. So thank you, Chair, for bearing with me. I'm Ashutosh Ojha, Deputy Director General from Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, NSO India, going to give a short presentation from India on measuring National SDG Progress. Still, probably you have the screen, my presentation. You are trying to share my presentation?
Yes, we're now on the second slide, which is outline of your presentation.
Okay. I'm not able to see, but it's okay. You are on the second. So this is the outline of my presentation. I'm not able to see that what is going on, but still the presentation is with me, so I will just go with that. So on the third slide, just move to third slide. So as per the shown outline, now let us understand the institutional arrangement at national level in India as far as SDGs are concerned. So you can see that there's a Niti Aayog in India, which is a nodal institution responsible to coordinate overall implementation and monitoring efforts of SDG in India. And then there's a NSO, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, which is entrusted with the responsibility of development, review, and refinement of the National Indicator Framework for SDG to facilitate in monitoring the progress of SDG in the country. So besides that, there are certain line ministries which are providing data on SDGs to NSO India. Then finally, the Ministry of External Affairs, which continues to play a supporting and coordinating role in international commitment as far as SDGs are concerned. So next slide, please. So this is slide number 4. Now coming to the topic concerned, in India, we are using more than one ways to monitor the progress of SDGs in the country. The first one is through National Indicator Framework and the annual progress reports based on it. So NSO MOSPI, after the series of consultation with all stakeholders, has developed the National Indicator Framework on SDG with identified data source and periodicity. And NSO India regularly reviews it and refines the SDG NIF. And presently, there are 308 indicators in our National Indicator Framework. So next slide, please. If it is slide number 5, then NSO India, these are some of the NSO India has released the baseline reports and annual progress reports on National Indicator Framework with time series data, which is the basis for monitoring the progress of SDG in the country. The latest report, yes, now I can see the latest report, which was released on 31st March this year. Basically, this will track to the progress of SDG in India. So now next slide, please. Next slide, please. So, so if it is slide number 6, then these are some of the recent SDG releases of NSO India, and all published reports are available on the website of the ministry. So next slide. Next to this, I mean, not slide number 7, I'm referring to. SDG progress is also measured through SDG India Dashboard, India SDG Dashboard, which is a unified data repository on SDG India indicators and has the provision of providing time series data at disaggregated level. This dashboard has been developed in collaboration with United States of India. Next slide, please. Then SDG monitoring in India is also done through SDG India Index, which has been released by Niti Aayog since December 2018. The SDG India Index comprehensively measures the progress made by India and its states and UTs towards achieving 2030 targets. It is a composite score which is computed in the range of 0 to 100 for India as well as for each states and UTs. And the main objective of SDG India Index is not only to give the progress of India as a whole, but to rank the performance of states or UTs on their achievements across SDGs. Then to promote healthy competition among states, UTs in their journey towards achieving global SDGs, global goals, and also to support the states UT in identify the areas which demands more attention. Next, please. And the methodology, if I can say, that is prepared, developed in close association with MOSPI, NSO, and moreover, the used methodology is largely used by the Sustainable Development Solution Network, global initiative operates under the auspices of United Nations. So next slide. Yes, these are some of the steps involved in construction of SDG India Index, starting from indicator selection to target setting of each indicator, then up to computation of composite global SDG score for India as well as states for and UTs. You can see that India's score has been improved from 57 in 2018 to 60 in 2019. Next slide, please. At sub-national level also, states and UT play an important role in monitoring the progress of SDGs. So MOSPI and Niti Aayog are closely working with states UTs for their localization of SDGs and providing all technical assistance to states in development of their state indicator framework and district indicator framework. The slide which is on the screen is shows the major data challenges which we are facing, which includes the data gaps for certain indicators, especially at disaggregated level and also at subnational level. Then there are some definitional measurement, and then the data flow mechanism needs to be strengthened. These are some of the challenges. And now I would like to just show one last two slides. Next, please. What are the initiatives we have taken to address these challenges? We have launched some new surveys dedicated to SDG data requirement. Then the existing surveys we have aligned as per our SDG data requirement. Then we are collaborating with UN agencies and research institutions mainly to bridge the data gaps, especially for global, of course, for global indicators. And then till now we were having using the only official statistics data from official statistical system. So now we are exploring the possibility of use of big data, artificial intelligence, and remote sensing. And some of the work we have started on a small area estimation with UNFPA. Then we know the importance of data integration. So some has been done on the environmental, that is, and we have sent our case study to the team of Sana, who's leading the team for data integration, and we'll be happy whenever we will be given chance to present those things. And then we collaborate with states because we are providing all sort of technical assessment of their state indicator and framework and the district indicator framework to monitor the SDG at subnational level. Then we are providing them training also, then meeting workshop regularly, whatever their problem. We are continuously reviewing our national indicator framework as per the advancement in our statistical system or importance. And then next, last slide. So as a way forward, what we are working toward greater involvement of community engagement, corporate sector, industries, and academia world for localization of SDGs and also for achieving it in the given time frame. And we are also going to start a new survey that is comprehensive annual modular survey from this year itself to cater the data requirement of SDGs. Thank you. This is all from my side.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Dr. Auja, and thank you for being so dynamic with your technology issues there. It's wonderful that we're able to connect you. Thank you so much. It's great to have you with us. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've just had five very good presentations that shows you the power of monitoring progress with the 2030 agenda at the national level and some of the challenges, but also the creativity that we see across this region. I really do apologise for going over the hour. We've answered quite a number of the questions in the chat box, but our speakers are still here. If there's any burning questions that anyone would like to raise, there just along the top there's a raise your hand function, or if there's any questions that anybody would like to ask of any of our speakers, in addition to those that we've had in the chat. I'm just having a look now. I can't see any hands being raised. I would like to share. Oh, sorry, I can see a hand. Jambal, Miss Jambal. Sorry, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Over to you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. Myself is Dolcin Surun Jambal, is the RCO team leader and strategic planning officer in UN Mongolia. So thank you for the very interesting presentations. And for the Mongolian cases, we have the government of Mongolia has recently nationalized the SDG indicator targets. But the challenge that we have is that the national long and medium term policies, the targets and also the measuring indicators are different than the nationalized indicator targets. So the question for us, like, because from the UN side, we are keep advocating that how the SDG indicator targets can be mainstreamed into the national policies, but it relates to the capacity building or capacity issues for the government as well, and then also, really aware and understanding of the SDGs, etc. So what kind of the best practices that we should be using really to push the government to really use the indicators and targets? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. Look, you've just seen three presentations. Well, actually, we've just seen four presentations in India, Ukraine, Philippines, and Thailand, who have followed the 2030 agenda framework, which says let's localize the 2030 agenda to our national circumstance. And you know, in the case of Ukraine, they had I get my numbers here now, 183 indicators and 110 had data. Philippines chose 151. The 2030 agenda is a framework for that requires localization. And what this national tracker tool does is it lets you also nationalize the targets that are relevant for your national circumstance. The conversation we just heard here from the Thailand Resident Coordinator's Office is that there is this inherent tension between using the global indicators, the global data, and the global targets for national reporting. But I think this is where you, in a way, need both, because you need national reporting, so that because it's the government at the end of the day that reports at the high-level political forum on how well are they going with the 2030 agenda, but it's the UN who can look collectively at groups of countries to sort of say, well, how well, where can we provide our best support and capacity building, whether it's with improving data availability or in the case of the statistical officers, that's certainly our priority, or whether there's particular goals that the UN can support a government, say in the case of Ukraine there, where they focused in a little bit more closely on SDG 3. So I think I'm giving you a bit of a ESCAP development comment on that one, but you certainly should also be talking with your other resident coordinator and Neil, Neil Boone, who's with us here today, the Development Coordination Office, can also provide some guidance on that. But ESCAP looks at this through a development lens and about developing the capacity of our national statistical officers to deliver on the commitments in the 2030 agenda, particularly around strengthening statistical systems. I also just want to at this mention that not only have we developed this tool, but we have a couple of projects that we've just started this year. We have, with the support of the government of China, have the capacity to work with many countries to apply this progress assessment methodology. So if there is interest, we're very happy to work with you. We also have a project with the Republic of Korea focused on indicators and national indicator sets, and improving the link between data and policy. And you'll, you know, this is a really good opportunity. We actually have a new SDG global indicator framework that was approved this time last year in March 2020. And so for many countries, they've localized an old or an out-of-date indicator set. So if you are looking to update your indicator set, as we heard from Philippines, as we heard there from Ukraine and India as well, ESCAP also has, with the wonderful support of the Republic of Korea, able to provide some assistance there too. Let me just check in. Arman or Dayan, did you want to add anything at that point? Or any of our speakers?
Yeah, can I come?
Sure.
Very briefly. Just what someone asked about the target setting. Yes, in our SDG India Index, what we have taken for some indicator targets set by the UN itself in the global framework, and then for many of the indicators, the targets set by Government of India. that we have also taken, and we are trying to just go moving towards that also. Whatever goal is there for set at global level, whether it is applicable in the national context or the same goal or not, same target, that we are exploring, and we are moving towards that also. So we have included many indicators with target by Government of India in our indicator framing. That's what I wanted to highlight. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Dr. Auja. Wilma or Alina, do you want to add anything at this point? I'm really sorry, we're running so over time.
Yes, Gemma, if I may just add, if Mongolia has a labor force survey and family income and expenditure survey, so they can add questions to that to be able to respond to the needs or the data requirement of the Sustainable Development Goals monitoring. And also they can look at administrative data, which they can actually review and for accuracy and for, alignment to statistical standards, and they can also make use of those information in monitoring the SDGs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, that's absolutely true. We've got a lot of data. The Statistical Office knows a lot of data sources available for most of these indicators. Thank you very much for that. Kaniki from Kyrgyzstan.
Hello, everyone. Just one question. I really, first of all, I would like to thank everyone for this impressive presentation and the country experience. Hopefully I will contact with my colleagues from Kyrgyzstan and try to put them to use this tool. But meanwhile, you know, I just want to ask some question about the plans. We all understand that we're developing this thousands and thousands of indicators, but this indicators require a lot of finance. Is there any plans, for example, for ESCAP to work on different tools to support the national statistical offices to show that the gaps between the financing of national statistical offices or the system to produce this huge amount of data? Because we understand that the society, I mean the communities and etc., they are requiring this data. And in parallel, you know, we always hear different kind of complaints from the society that the national statistical offices are not producing this, and that their data sometimes is out of date, and etc., etc. So it means that we need more and more infrastructure, capacity development, and more money to produce and to address this requests. So is there any plans from for example, from your side to think about this? Maybe we need to support our national statistical offices and to show the evidence, not only for the development of the country, but for the development of different institutions to produce this data. Thank you, Over.
Yeah, thank you very much. You've also asked quite a big question there. So SCAP's actually putting most of our effort into supporting statistical officers, you know, with developing exactly that, their capacity, not only to produce the SDG indicators, but to produce relevant policy relevant data in its own right. The financing for SDGs is widely known across the UN system and is being led primarily by a group called the High Level Group on Partnerships, Capacity Building and Coordination, with some really strong leadership being undertaken by a group called Paris 21 and the Swiss government. So SCAP contributes to discussions on financing. We don't do any, we basically are part of a group that are looking at financing, but our primary focus is to bring tools like we're showing you here today, and to bring to the table conversations like we're having today, which show you what is possible with existing data as much as possible. So as we just heard from Philippines, You know, there is a lot of surveys and administrative data that can be already used. And a lot of it's not being used, but a lot of survey and census data and administrative data can already be used for the SDG indicators. Similarly, there's some satellite data, big data. We've just been exploring the use of big data and techniques like data integration. So we try to work more closely with building the capacity of the National Stats Office to see what is possible. But certainly the financing, we can certainly put you in touch with those. Let me just check in again. Dr. Aja, Wilma, Tamana. I think given that we're 20 minutes past the hour now, or 20 minutes over our allotted time, I'd like to actually thank all of our speakers, Dr. Aja, Elena from the Ukraine Statistics Office, Wilma from the Philippine Statistics Authority, Tamana from the Thailand Resident Coordinator's Office, Dayan from my own team, and Arman for putting this together. Please do reach out to us. We're very open to talk with you about this, and it's just been wonderful hearing from all the presentations. So thank you so much for putting your videos back on, and thank you so much everybody for joining us today. It's been a great pleasure talking with you. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, UNSCAP.